Hey, don't click away. Listen, it is part 2 of the 7 evil musicians. You guys don't want to miss this, baby. It's heat. It's absolute heat. More content like this coming soon. Yo, it's time. Why is the info showing? We need these type of videos. I was listening to Lost Prophets. I never knew this. That's the thing. It's like, hey, we got to hold strong. We got to finish it through.
About evil musicians without including Varg Vikernes. The fact that his fellow students would frequently be beaten, but he would not, is most likely what started his well-documented white supremacist views, believing that exemption from corporal punishment made him above
I ain't gonna lie,
his
that kind of
fellow
like Dan
students and
Watson.
teachers. These views were not exclusive.
Shout out to Dan though. he ain't a white supremacist.
Varg has stated that she was scared that he would one day, quote, come home with a black girl. There are also claims that Varg was part of a neo-Nazi skinhead group as a teenager, but he denies this, saying that there were no skinheads in Bergen. At the age of 19, he started his own one-man black metal band named Burzum. It was during this time that he met Euronymous, lead guitarist of the band Mayhem. Despite being a highly influential figure in the Norwegian black metal scene, he was nevertheless controversial due to his actions following the death of Mayhem's previous lead vocalist, Per Olin, better known as Dead, whereby he found the lead singer immediately after he committed suicide via a gunshot wound to the head, and instead of calling the police or an ambulance, proceeded to take pictures of the scene and even kept pieces of Dead's skull and gave them to people who he considered worthy. While Varg and Euronymous would collaborate musically, they would also take part in an event that would bring black metal music to the public eye for all the wrong reasons. On June 6, 1992, the Fantov Stav Church, which had stood for over 800 years from the year 1150, was burned to the ground in what would be the first of many arson attacks committed by members of the black metal scene.
That's
Varg
crazy.
And Euronymous took part in the burning of at least one church together. In total, 50 churches were burned between 1992 and 1996. In early 1993, animosity began to grow between Varg and Euronymous. While it's unknown what caused the rift, it resulted in Varg stabbing Euronymous to death in his apartment on August 10, 1993. Varg claimed that he acted in self-defense, saying that Euronymous planned to stun him with a taser, tie him up, and torture him to death on camera. Varg's claim of self-defense is obviously questionable, as Euronymous had been stabbed 23 times, with 16 wounds being in his back. Varg was arrested on August 19, 1993. The police found 150 kilograms of explosives and 3,000 rounds of ammunition in his home. He had apparently been planning on blowing up the Blitz House, a far-left social centre in Oslo. On May 16, 1994, after a 2-week trial, Varg was sentenced to 21 years in prison for murder, the arson of 3 churches, the attempted arson of a 4th church, and for the theft and storage of 150 kilograms of explosives. In what's probably one of the most infamous moments in music history, upon receiving his sentence, Varg looked directly at the news camera in the courtroom and gave a chilling smile. Varg was released from prison in 2009 on probation and changed his name to Louis Cochet after moving to France. He has continued to face legal trouble since his release. In 2013, both he and his wife were arrested under suspicion of planning a terrorist attack after his wife purchased 4 rifles. The 2 were later released without charge, as the police were unable to find any evidence of a terrorist plot. However, Varg was charged with hate speech against Jewish and Islamic people due to posts he made on his blog, Thulean Perspective. He was given 6 months probation and an €8,000 fine. He has also been banned from YouTube due to the site's policies on hate speech. Despite his criminal history, Varg has built up a dedicated following due to the intrigue surrounding his past. However, as a convicted murderer, would-be terrorist, and neo-Nazi, there's no denying that he belongs on a list like this.
Right. Actually, he's out here just hating and killing. Yo, he wild. All right, Phil Spector.
Spector formed a band called the Teddy Bears, who in 1958 would release the single To Know Him Is To Love Him, which would make it all the way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. Unfortunately, they were never able to replicate this success and split the next year. Spector then swapped performing for producing. While he would find success producing and writing records for a number of artists,
I'll bring more content like this then.
That he would become the most involved with was the all-female R&B group, the Ronettes. In particular, their lead singer, Veronica Greenfield. The group's work with Spector led to several
Right.
hit singles in the early 60s. However, this success was short-lived, and Spector went into seclusion for the next several years following this. During this time, he had begun a relationship with Veronica Greenfield while he was still married to his first wife. After divorcing her, he married Greenfield in 1968. Upon taking his name, she began professionally calling herself Ronnie Spector, a name she would keep for the rest of her career. The two had no biological children, instead adopting 3 sons, Dante Philip, and twins
Cave
Louis
diving
and Gary.
disaster videos.
Ronnie would later allege that Spector had been horribly abusive to her during their marriage. He was subjected to psychological torment by not allowing her to perform, effectively sabotaging her career. He surrounded his mansion
I guess
with
this is
barbed
just
wire
a
and
watching
guard
video
dogs,
stream,
and
I
also
guess.
took away her shoes to prevent her from escaping. One of the more bizarre claims made by Ronnie is that on the rare occasion that Spector did allow her to leave the house alone, she would have to drive with a life-size dummy of him sitting beside her in some sort of sick way for him to be with her in spirit.
That's my type of thing to do. If my face is not on your underwear, hey yo, throw it away.
Spector had apparently even gone as far as to have a gold and glass coffin placed in the mansion's basement, and told her that if she ever tried to leave him, he would kill her and put her body on display. In 1972, Ronnie was able to escape from Spector's mansion with help from her mother,
Do those
leaving
videos?
all
Alright.
of her possessions behind. The two divorced in 1974. In the settlement,
We'll have to
Ronnie
cut
was
down the
threatened
lights.
into forfeiting all of her future recording earnings, with Spector claiming he would hire a hitman to kill her if she refused. She was also forced to surrender custody of her sons to him. Years later, their sons, Gary and Dante, would reveal that Spector was abusive towards them, with him keeping them captive in a similar way he had done to Ronnie. They also claimed that he would force them to engage in sexual acts with one of his girlfriends. In case you haven't figured it out by now, I'm just going to come out and say it. Phil Spector was a lunatic. Besides his horrific treatment of Ronnie Spector, he was also infamous for waving guns around in the studio. In 1970, while working on John Lennon's rock and roll album, Spector, reportedly high out of his mind on amyl nitrate, fired a handgun right next to Lennon's ear, seemingly as a sick prank. In 1978, while working on Leonard
just a
Cohen's
prank,
Death
bro.
of the Ladies' Man album, a drunk Spector pointed a gun at Cohen's neck.
Is that Al Pacino?
Cohen, however, simply pushed the gun away.
It looked like it.
He also pointed a gun at Blondie frontwoman Debbie Harry and pretended to pull the trigger when he invited her to his mansion to discuss a studio collaboration. Most people probably assumed Spector didn't have the guts to actually go through with shooting anyone. Sadly, in 2003, he proved that this wasn't the case. On February 3rd, Spector met actress Lana Clarkson, who was working a side job as a waitress at the
House of Blues, that's in
Los
Orlando.
Angeles. He invited
no.
her back to his
Wrong
mansion,
one.
which she accepted. After arriving in Spector's limousine, the two went inside while the driver waited outside. An hour later, the driver heard a gunshot, followed by Spector running out of the back door saying, "I think I've just killed someone."
This thing says
Clarkson's
Barack
body was
Obama,
found
right?
slumped in a chair with a gunshot wound in her mouth.
What?
Spector claimed that Clarkson's death was due to an accidental suicide after she had, quote, kissed the gun. However, several other women came forward during his
Is it me or his face is just shrinking? He's looking like Golem.
threatened them with a gun after they had rejected his advances. On May 29,
What the
2009,
This is a different
Phil
guy.
Spector was sentenced to 19 years to life in prison for the murder of Lana Clarkson. He appealed this sentence several times, but was denied each time. He died in prison.
Every
on January
photo is
16,
different.
2021,
Good.
After being diagnosed with having contracted COVID-19.
Hey, literally every single photo he's showing, it's just somebody different. Charles Manson was a musician?
When I stand on the mountain and I say, do it, it gets done. If it don't get done, then I'll move on it. And that's the last thing in the world you
Yo,
want me to
look
do.
at. Did you see what's on his? He had a swastika right in the middle of his forehead. That's crazy.
And he is one of the country's most infamous criminals. Charles Manson was born on November 12, 1934. He learned to play the guitar with help from Alvin Karpis, leader of the Barker Karpis gang. Manson had become known to the hippies of the local area as a guru. He told these followers that they were the reincarnations of the original Christians. With a large group now made up of both men and women, they went on the road across the west coast of America and called themselves the Manson family. In 1968,
Oh, it's a cult.
two of Manson's female followers were hitchhiking and were picked up by a man who happened to be a famous musician, Dennis Wilson of the Beach Boys. Dennis took Manson to his brother Brian Wilson's home studio, where Manson recorded over 100 hours of material, though these tapes had never been released. He also wrote a song for the Beach Boys entitled Cease to Exist. However, Dennis reworked the song and changed the title to Never Learn.
Oh, he muted it because it would definitely be copyright. W Mans, hey yo, appreciate you. Because you already know it will block my video. Appreciate you. I'm a desert and go. I was just thinking of that SpongeBob song that was they ripped his pants.
Rip my pants.
Manson responded to these changes by threatening to kill Wilson.
He was a product of
Didn't let
MK
Manson
Ultra.
intimidate him and instead ended their friendship. He left his home with the Manson family still living there and let the lease on the house run out, resulting in the family being evicted. It was at this point that Manson began his descent into madness that would leave several people dead by the end of 1969. After listening to the Beatles' self-titled album, or the White Album as it's more commonly known, he believed that it predicted a race war between white and black people.
What?
Manson ordered the family to carry out attacks on white people and frame it in a way that implied the attacks were carried out by black people.
What?
The first victim was Gary Hinman, a music teacher who had befriended the family. He was held hostage for 2 days before being stabbed to death. The family used his blood to write Political Piggy on the wall and drew a panther's paw, the symbol of the Black Panthers. The second and most infamous of the murders took place on August 8, 1969. The family broke into 10050 Cielo Drive and began an attack that would leave 6 people dead. Stephen Parent was shot 4 times. Jay Sebring was shot, kicked in the face, and stabbed 7 times before dying of blood loss.
2 hours later.
Wojciech Frykowski was stabbed 51 times and shot repeatedly to death after trying to escape from the family. Manson ordered the family to, quote, leave something witchy, so they wrote pig on the front door in Tate's blood.
After gunshot stabbing and being kicked in the face, he only died from plot armor.
Manson himself
He must have
remained
been
in
strong or
prison
something.
until his death from
Had to
cardiac
be.
arrest on October 19th,
Good.
2017. Phil Kaufman produced
He died
the
in
album
2017.
Lie, The Love and Terror Cult in 1970. The album was not a commercial success, but has become something of a cult classic. Today, Manson is only seen as a lunatic who managed to convince his followers to murder innocent people, all because he believed it would lead to his deranged prophecy coming true. This is why, in my mind, he is the most evil musician who has ever lived.
I see blood in here every day.
What?
Every day someone's getting shot, someone's getting cut, someone's getting beat. I've lived in that all my life, woman. That don't wrinkle up my forehead.
Yo, he different. I don't know. Like, I think the Gary Glitter, that one, I'm still thinking about. That, no, was it Gary Glitter? It's Gary Glitter and then the Lost Prophets one. Like, Gary literally walked wherever he wanted, got caught every single time, and fled to a different country. And did the exact same thing in a different country and kept on getting caught and just moved. That's like me robbing a bank. They catch me and they're like, oh, okay. I just keep robbing every single bank in every city. Like, stop me. Like, do something. That's crazy. Rich people really be getting away with a lot, huh?